Welcome back. I'm Rain, and I'm joined by Sutonia, and we're commentating We Want Your ISK versus Darwinism. So We Want Your ISK all warped into a giant ball at 50 kilometers off the center, bringing a Bargas Claymore with a bunch of T2 cruiser support, as well as a Scalpel Kirin frigate Logi, and a Mollusk. Sutonia, can you introduce Darwinism?
Yeah, so Darwinism have teleported their low-sec gate camp from the Ashmara Gate into the arena. They have a Macarial, Tempest, Fleet Hurricane, Hugin, Tornado, Blackbird, Hyena, Kisune, and the Rupture.
Yeah, and for those who are able to see, Darwinism actually warps outside of range, so you have to warp between 0 and 70, or I believe it's 0 and 50 kilometers. And they actually warped at 100, so the GM has announced in local that they will be moved to the center of the arena to join, I believe it's their Macarial. Yeah, so Gary Bell and the Macarial at the center, which may have been their intent. I know warp-ins in these system kind of get a little bit messed up. So
Yeah,
Suton,
there's also a bit of oddity in the bans from Darwinism too. They decided to ban the Anirus as their last ban when We Want Your ISK has already banned the Anirus, which is kind of bizarre.
yeah, so clearly neither of these teams wanted to see or face their opponents with a, I want to say like a full Logi setup. So We Want Your ISK obviously looking to avoid facing an armor comp, Darwinism looking to avoid facing a shield comp. Although at the same time, obviously people can bring T1 Cruiser Logi or T2 Frigate Logi like We Want Your ISK have done.
Yeah, it's kind of interesting that all of the logistics have been banned. Darwinism actually chose to not bring a logistics, whereas We Want Your ISK are quite happy to have the logistic cruisers banned out, bringing that Scalpel and Kirin pair. Those two Tech 2 logistics frigates can be very powerful.
Yeah, and I believe so what we are waiting on now, because they have warped out of range, the GM obviously has to use the tools behind the scene to move them all to the center, and I believe it's doing it one by one as we're watching them pop closer. So as they get closer, or as they all get moved, then we will be able to start the countdown to start the match. But while we wait for that, Sutonia, what do you think the plan from We Want Your ISK is?
Okay, so We Want Your ISK, they've bought a Barghest, an Ishtar, a Cerberus, an Orpheus, a Healer, Vex, and Avishu. They've got a big mix of drones and sort of long range, I believe rapid light damage from the Cerberus, the Orpheus, and the Barghest. So they're probably looking to kite people out and, snipe down a few ships with the heavy firepower from the rapid lights and the drones before they lose the drones and the rapid lights go on reload. And Darwinism have mostly artillery, it seems, on the Macarial Tempest and the Fleet Hurricane. So I guess what their plan is to use the Hugin to web and paint everyone up, and then just try and alpha some ships. I guess that's why they wanted to ban the Tech 2 logistics cruisers. They just want to ban things, and the match has started.
No, those are players getting moved to the center.
Oh, I just saw their speeds shoot up, so I was like, whoa, what happened here? Sorry,
Yeah,
the
yeah.
match hasn't started.
Just a prank. So with Darwinism too, they have that Blackbird Kitsune support. So obviously jams, everyone's favorite in-game mechanic. So what we'll see on screen then is attempted jams to come across. We cannot confirm if they are actually jamming things, but that's one way too for Darwinism to sort of, I want to say, disable We Want Your ISK and then like prevent their ships from actually applying damage or reps or anything along those lines to then slowly pick apart We Want Your ISK.
Yeah, what ship do you think they're going to go for first with this artillery backed up by Hugin, target painters, and webs from the Hyena and Hugin?
I was gonna say definitely they could easily shoot the Kirin and the Scalpel. So those ships, unless they get transversal up right away or anything along those lines, they'd be really easy to break through the tank. Assuming that the target painter hits, they're able to apply some sort of web, which may or may not occur at 50 kilometers. But those would be, I would guess, would maybe be the first quote unquote easy targets. And we have about 15 seconds till the match starts. What about you, Sutonia? What do you think?
Yeah, I don't know. I think they'll have a very hard time tracking the Scalp and Kirin. I'm not too sure. Maybe the Orpheus, it doesn't have Tech 2 resists like the Ishtar and the Serb doesn't have the resist bonus like the Healer. Maybe the VNI, not too sure. We'll see shortly as the match starts.
So the match has started. I was gonna say I was expecting links to go off. I have not seen links go off. There they are. And Darwinism immediately applying target painting to that Vexor Navy issue as well as Jam. So like you predicted, Sutonia, the Vexor Navy, and then the Mollusk for We Want Your ISK, trying to damp the Blackbird to prevent those jams from having the longest range possible. So the Blackbird having to come in closer to actually be able to apply.
It look,
Kitsune beat.
Yeah, that Kisune's already in armor. It's not going to have any tank because they don't have a logistic, so it's down already losing the Kisune. Vex and Knavish is actually doing quite well with the Scalpel and Kirin repping him up, and also he has Claymore links.
Yeah, so we saw that rep symbol drop from the VNI, so we can maybe make a safe assumption that the Scalpel and Kirin have both been jammed. It looks like we want your ISK next going for that Hyena, another T2 frigate, or T2 E-War frigate. So with no Logi, will definitely fall really fast if they're able to apply those rapid lights.
Yeah, once they lose that Hyena as well, and then probably the Hugin shortly after, they won't be able to web stuff or target paint stuff down at range anymore, and then that artillery from the Macaro and Tempest are going to be incredibly ineffective.
Yeah, so while these frigates on the field may seem weak or small, they're actually critical for teams, for these battleships to be able to apply their damage. So the Hyena is actually living a bit longer than the Kitsune, but still it's going to fall as we see it volleyed off the field. The Vexor Navy issue is still holding, though, even with jams attempted on the Scalpel and the Kirin.
Yeah, it looks like they're calling for a target swap here. They're opting to go for the Orpheus now instead, since he's now being target painted. Looks like they're maybe going to try their luck with him. The Blackbird is getting damped and target painted, so it looks like the Blackbird is the next primary for We Want Your ISK.
Yeah, and they're also, it seems, applying damage to that Tempest as well. I'm not sure if maybe somebody... I was gonna say, I don't know why they'd be splitting damage on the Tempest, maybe just to like spook them, or if they have, I would say, Logi drones, to maybe split those up in some way. But the Blackbird is now dropping into armor, being primaried off the field. Oh, as well as that Rupture now going into armor too.
Yeah, the Blackbird's really low, Rupture in armor, Tempest and Macaro taking some damage. It is possible that it might be the VNI drones. He's getting shot, maybe he's out of range. Looks like he ran away quite a fair bit while he was primary to try and last as long as possible, and then his drones just sort of auto-aggressed onto the Tempest, which was shooting him instead of... Well, it looks like the Tempest is going down, though. His target painted Tornado is already down. Tempest about to enter armor here.
Yeah, and same with that Fleet Hurricane. It seems like We Want Your ISK can just freely split their damage and take down these battle cruisers and battleships. Like, I'm actually quite impressed, because normally that doesn't happen. The Rupture now being target painted and primate, it just seems like they're just target calling very quickly, and everyone's just applying all that damage instantly, and they're able to volley people off the field.
Yeah, U-Petal Scalpel now is webbed by the Hugin. I guess the Hugin finally got in range and was able to get a web on him, and the Scalpel is taking damage here, almost in armor, but I mean, it's too little too late, I guess, since they only have Macaro Tempest and Fleet Hurricane alive, but they might at least be able to score some points before they go into the losers bracket.
Yeah, this Scalpel seems to be clawing its way back. The Kirin shows an attempted jam, obviously is not jammed. I believe the only, I don't want to say Darwinism has ECM. I want to say they have ECM drones over having ECM mids to try and jam this Kirin. And the Hugin is now down. Looks like Fleet Hurricane maybe next, or the Tempest. Tempest, I thought had a self-wrap, it looked like. Dropped into armor and then shot back up.
Yeah, it looks like the Fleet Hurricane is going to be primary, I think, because he's got the target painter and the damp on him. I don't think Darwinism can really kill anything now that the Hugin's down. The only thing that's going to be able to track at all is probably going to be that Fleet Hurricane with his tracking bonus medium artillery, but he's going to be damped by the enemy Maulus, which is going to make him really, really dampering. You can tell us more about that. But Macariel and Tempest are just not going to be able to track with their 1400mm artillery.
Yeah, so if we want to talk about damps, so many people know ECM as an E-War mechanic. So damps are similar. They obviously like mess with the targets. I want to say a target's targeting, a ship's targeting. So a ship, it like decreases the range, increases the lock speed. So while damps may be, I want to say, underestimated many times, they can be very powerful in this. So obviously you saw Amalis on We Want Your ISK versus Darwinism's, Blackbird and Kitsune, but We Want Your ISK won. And so that's an issue. That's another thing that players need to consider is damping mechanics. They can be very powerful, especially against kiting teams where they want to get range and try and apply damage.
Yeah, it looks like this is just going to be a systematic victory here for We Want Your ISK. Tempest about to go down, then the Macaro's just going to get damped out and taken out in exactly the same way.
Yeah, so Darwinism warping at an extremely far range, getting teleported to the center, but then still not being able to, I want to say, execute. I'm not quite sure. I know that they wanted to go for that VNI, potentially the Scalpel Kirin Orthros at one point, but they were never actually able to apply any any damage and I'm gonna say kill anything on the We Want Your ISK. They handled We Want Your ISK. Props to them. They handled that very well.
Yeah, the Vex and Navy issue of Tibsky Estimare did a really good job of just kiting away. He was never in web range of that Hugin or Hyena. I think that's probably the key mistake Darwinism made, is they're in this like very all-in comp that's trying to headshot something straight away, and they just weren't able to get webs onto that VNI, and it just got away, and the Scalp on Kirin did a great job at just pulling, like keeping with him and repping him up in between the jam cycles.
Yeah, and so we see this final Macariel from Gary Bell, the only guy who's able to warp to the center. He's flying like further away from the middle of the arena, but now he's just kind of sitting still trying to shoot as We Want Your ISK all kind of move in towards him to try and pick him off to end the match.
It looked like he had given up for a while there because he was just sat at 0 meters per second.
Oh, so he's actually sitting on one of the MJD beacons. Yep, so he's MJDing away from the We Want Your ISK. And, ooh, 108. He almost got out of the arena. He's like under 20 kilometers from boundary violating, but he was not at speed, so he did not coast out of the arena like some pilots do. So he is prolonging this match, trying to save his Macariel. We Want Your ISK are going to have to, well, they can shoot pretty far. They're going to have to keep moving. You can see the missiles still coming in on this Macariel.
Yeah, I don't think he's going to be able to survive because the Vex and Navy server and Orpheus are all pretty fast. They have Claymore links too. He is definitely going to die. Unfortunately, he didn't manage to get out of the arena, so he's not going to get an invitation to have it.
Yeah, as we all know, the best way to get into the PLAT team is to boundary violate. Yeah, so this Macariel is falling. So, Tony, do you think there was anything Darwinism could have done better to maybe at least score a kill on We Want Your ISK, or did We Want Your ISK just bring like the unbeatable comp against Darwinism's?
I think Darwinism probably need to get good because a lot of things went wrong before the match even started. Darwinism don't have a flagship, they banned something that was already banned, they warped into the arena at the wrong range, and now their Macaro is dead and We Want Your ISK is taking Darwinism's ISK.
With that, we'll send it back to Ithaca in the studio.
EVE Dublin returns on August 31st and September 1st for a 2-day event. For tickets and more information, visit evedublin.com.
Hi, I'm Creature Verpio, Test Super Capital FC. My interests are gunning Fortizars and my budding voice acting career. My ideal fleet member is one who has at least one Titan and a Faxon. If you want to fly with me, join Test today.
Hi guys, welcome back. That looks like Darwinism showing that if they don't have a gate to anchor around or neutral logi, that they're just in total disarray, losing there to We Want Your ISK. Laz, why did they lose other than being low-sec gate camping trash?
You're so brutal, man. I mean, we were talking about this before we came back, I think the last time we've seen the actual alpha battleship doctrine work was back in the original Triumvirate days in the AT, I think like 6 or 7 or something like that. But they brought nothing but artillery ships and tried to volley ships off the field. But they had issues tracking, damage projection. I mean, you have the Mollis sensor dams, and artillery, like we were talking about earlier, that has the huge alpha volley, but they also have the huge rate of fire. Like it's, I think on a Maelstrom, even with damage mods, it's like 18 seconds rate of fire. But I mean, so you have a slow rate of fire, can't really apply damage on those kiting ships, and I think they just get completely outplayed.
Yeah. Bart, you have anything to add to that? I mean, we saw one RT comp kind of work already so far in that Fly Killer versus Fly Killer. But as Laz pointed out, battleships maybe just a bit too far with the RT there?
Yeah, I think the difference for that is that the one we saw earlier that was just, it's cruiser-sized artillery, which has so much better tracking while still having really high alpha, versus battleship-sized artillery, which have just insanely high alpha, but they can't hit anything. maybe the Mercurial had a chance, but I think that, and they even their like medium-sized ship, they brought a Tornado, which is still using large guns. So, flag killer ships or flag killer setups they had webs shooting small stuff. Big ships shooting small things doesn't really work that well unless you can control them. So
yeah, I feel like they fell victim to the old "it's good on paper" because if you put that into EFT or PIFA, that looks like a good comp. It probably is tanky, probably does loads of DPS. They're like, oh, wow, look at that alpha strike. But realistically, applying that damage is the real problem. And if you don't apply the damage, then what good is it?
Well, they have the Hugin, which Hugin does have a bonus to target paints and webs, but because of the kiting nature of the team, they just can't apply well. And it came down to not being able to do any damage. And with no Logi, their whole game plan was just volley things off the field, and it just didn't happen.
Yeah. Well, they drop into the losers bracket, so they still have a chance to come back and pull out a few wins and get some dope skins. For every round or match you win in this tournament, you do get 10 skins for your team, which is lovely. They're pretty nice skins. So gone, but not completely out. So we'll hopefully see them again in the losers bracket later on in the tournament. Now, we're going to roll back to the Phage and Terror match because we do have the kill mail for their flagship, the Shack, which was a lot more expensive than the Unspoken Alliance one, as we can see up here on your screen. They've gone pretty much all out with the Dead Space and the Officer mods here.
It's so pretty.
Yeah, that is a lot of money. I mean, Bart, you were telling me that damage control, what were you saying, about 20 billion alone?
It's probably something close to that. It's not the best damage control. Actually, when I first saw it, I thought it was the super good one, but it's still, people put those on Titans. Anything that is a Titan module, it costs a lot, because Titans cost a lot. So, and like we we talked about it with the other flagship, like, they were able to fit the large smart bomb because they took a medium capacitor booster. The thing is having a medium capacitor booster with 2 large armor reps, they probably weren't able to keep themselves alive. So this ship has an officer armor repairer and what is probably a abyssal rolled officer armor repairer, but I have a feeling it probably capped out pretty early and wasn't able to do anything to keep itself alive. So I think that even though this is the bling fit, I think that the other one might have actually been fit better. Yeah.
Yeah, we saw this one during the match. We were watching it and he was tanking and we were standing behind the commentator booth and we were like, this guy might survive. Like, look at his active rep bar. He had so much active reps that we were genuinely thinking maybe he can tank the rest of the team, or maybe they have to kill that damnation. And I believe me and Laz looked at each other and went, they're not killing that in a minute and a half. There's no way. And then there it is. Big old pile of dead. So, good job.
Like I said, lost the cap and
just because he went from like not having any trouble to just popping. So
But it's a proper flagship, lots of money. We are very happy with that here in the studio. We like to see money. My favorite part about expensive flagships, dying, is the inevitable thread that ends up on Reddit from someone who doesn't watch the tournament and doesn't understand flagships. And it's just like, hey guys, look at this really expensive Balgarn that just died. Ha ha ha. And then everyone calling them an idiot. Like, I love that part. So, we're going to have a break now. We are going to be back at 1700 Eve time for the Castabouts versus Wormhole Poverty Law Foundation, which is a great name. I love that name. So, but we are going to take a short break. We're going to go cool off from the Nottingham sun. And we'll see you guys in about half an hour.